Richmond's oldest monument, Vivian Watts, proves longevity only means more taxes. Listen, folks, when you look at Vivian Watts, you aren't looking at a delegate. You're looking at the institutional wallpaper of Virginia politics. She's been in the General Assembly since the year some of your parents were still using dial-up internet, 1982. Her Ballotpedia Q&A responses and forum performances don't show a leader. They reveal a robber baroness and the Democrats' chief fixer whose only priority is filling the state's coffers, usually with your money. Let's drag her answers into the light and see why 28-plus years of service is less a resume and more a list of grievances. The fixer's first priority, the perpetual tax grab. Watts proudly stakes her claim as the longest-serving woman in the House. That massive tenure going back to 1982 gave her enough time to maneuver into the most powerful spot for a taxing fiend, chair of the House Finance Committee. Her whole persona is built on being a nerd about data, but really, she's just a nerd about taking your money. In her Q&A, Watts identified her top priority as navigating the state's financial challenges stemming from federal budget cuts and ensuring Virginia sped the burden most fairly. Critique. Spreading the burden is code for time for more taxes. As the one who controls the budget levers, she is directly accountable for any unpopular spending or tax decisions. Her long record includes supporting tax increases for infrastructure back in 1986 and continually prioritizing long-term revenue over relief for citizens. Her opponent, Eric Johnson, nailed it when he called her revenue measures sneaker taxes that cost families more and more and more. When she talks about making things fair, she means fair for the Richmond establishment. The Green Energy Scheme, RGGI? Well, when discussing Virginia's participation in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, RGGI, Watts gave a response, dripping with the condescending elitism of a robber baroness looking down on her constituents. Her spin, Watts claims she fully supports RGGI because 50% of the auction funds go to conservation and low-income housing to cut electric bills, and the other half goes to fight sea level rise. It is always about the social engineering, folks. The reality, her response completely ignores the economic burden. As her opponent Eric Johnson pointed out, RGGI is just another thing that handicaps businesses and people and represents yet more sneaky fees. Watts focuses on why the state needs the revenue, not why families shouldn't be charged more. She's happy to see the state government collect auction funds so long as she can direct where they get spent. The elites lament, crying over federal cuts. When asked about the devastating federal workforce cut, Watts got right down to brass tacks. She found it devastating and immediately brought up how her husband, a 40-year veteran of the national park, service was impacted. The insult. She worries about the significant problems because this area involves people who are at a management level. Notice she doesn't weep for the postal worker or the janitor. She worries about the management class. Her entire focus is on the impact these lost high-salary jobs will have on the state's tax revenues. Demonstrating her primary concern is always the continuation of the affluent Northern Virginia economic engine that she controls. The audacity of transparency and the full flop. Watts insists that she maintains transparency and respect by constantly going door to door to talk to constituents. She mentions that she believes in the right to freedom of speech and religion. The grand lie. Watts knows what respect is like. She just refuses to show it. Her claim to transparency is a joke, given one of the clearest reversals in her decades-long career, the redistricting U-turn. In 2019, she supported a constitutional amendment to create an independent redistricting commission, calling it the only way to ensure fairness. But then, when Democrats won control of the legislature in 2020, Watts immediately flipped and voted against the identical measure. PolitiFact slapped her down, labeling it a full flop. She only supported good government when it hampered Republicans. Once she gained power, principles took a back seat to partisan greed. A career politician like Vivian Watts, who sells her deep and broad background, is really just advertising that she's a well-practiced fixer. She has used her time not to represent Virginians, but to secure the money needed to fund the political machine she commands. All while treating the public like peasants forced to pay the baron's toll. It's time to retire the fixer and dismantle the tower. This November, vote for common sense. Vote for Eric Johnson. Disclaimer: Paid for by Eric Johnson for Virginia House of Delegates.